My mic is on, so I'm just going to keep talking. Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started with worship in just a moment, but before we do that, as always, say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from, and also, if this is your very first time joining us, we are so glad that you're here today, and you picked a really awesome Sunday to be here. This past week, we were celebrating Kids Summer Adventure on our campus. We're going to get to see more about that later on, and we get to celebrate baptisms, which is pretty much our favorite thing to celebrate ever. So look forward to that later on in the service. And Wolfgang is also going to be concluding our series called Connecting with God. He's got an awesome message for us. But before all that, we are going to worship together. Thanks again for joining us, and welcome to Northshore Online.
Well, hey, welcome to Northshore. It's good to see everyone in this room, everyone online. Welcome. It's so good to be together. Let's get to our feet. We're going to remember how good God is, remember the work He's doing in our lives. This first song just reminds us all of that. So would you sing with us this morning? Will you sing with us this morning? All right. Nice. Here we go. Christ is my firm foundation. He's the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaking. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus. And He's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would He fail now? He won't. No, He won't. And I still got joy in chaos. I've got peace that makes no sense. So I won't be going under. I'm not held by my own strength, 'cause I build my life on Jesus, and He's never let me down. He's faithful in every season. faithful God. Oh, yeah. Let's sing this truth together. Sing, rain came, wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Sing, rain came, wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Rain came, wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Yeah, I'm gonna make it through. 'Cause I'm standing strong on you. Yeah, I'm gonna make it through. 'Cause my house is built on you. Sing it! Christ is my firm foundation. He is the rock on which I stand. When everything around me is shaking, he failed now, he won't. No, he will not fail us. We're going to keep worshiping him together. And as we do, we have some baptisms to celebrate today. We love baptisms around here. So it is an outward expression of an inward commitment to follow Jesus. So these brave people are going public with their faith today, and we make that a huge deal here. Yeah, that's right. So when they come up out of the water, we're going to give them a huge round of applause to celebrate this moment with them. Can we do that together? Awesome. All right, let's keep singing.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me
everyone. It is so good to see you here. I love just getting just a window into the type of life changes happening every week here at Northshore. I'm just grateful to be a part of a church that's so focused on introducing people to Jesus and saying, how can we be a church for our neighbors, next generation, those in need, in a way that results in them having an experience like that? So just thank you for being a part of that. You guys can go ahead and take your seats. If we haven't met yet, it is wonderful you guys are here. I want to introduce myself. My name is Steven. I'm on staff here at Northshore.
And I'm Shirley, and I'm not on staff, but I'm a member here. And it's so great to stand on this side and look out over all your faces. Many of you I've known for many, many years. And I just want to welcome you. Glad you're here. And to those online who are tuning in, I actually have friends and family across the country that tune in here every Sunday morning. So hi to them. If you're new, if you're just checking us out, it's your first time here, you can scan that QR code on the screen, or you can pull a card from the back of the seat there and fill it out. And then bring it after the service. Go out there to the guest services table and bring your card, and I'll meet you there, give you a little gift, and we'll get to know each other.
Yeah, we would love to get to meet you. And you would not guess, but this campus this week was bananas. It was pure insanity. And I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old at home. So I know insanity, and this place was wild. We had over 240 kids that just took over this campus for Kids Summer Adventure. We got to baptize a couple of them last service. That was incredible. And, a number of them that we got an all-staff message, just if you'd be willing to come in and pray for kids who are saying yes to Jesus for the first time. And so to get to see so many staff and volunteers and people in here, getting to pray over kids and help them make that decision and say yes to Jesus. It was incredible to see, and it was even more incredible that I got to enjoy all the chaos from just the sanctuary of my soundproof office and behind the door. It was great.
Yeah, it was pretty chaos. It was busy, it was fun, there was so much excitement. And unlike Stephen sequestered away doing what he does best, we had over 140 volunteers on campus the whole week with these kids. Yeah, they were pouring in love and wisdom and encouragement. They were seeing them, they were meeting the kids where they are. And we appreciate those volunteers so much. So if you're here and you volunteered this week, would you raise your hand? Let us see who you are.
Yes, thank you guys. You cannot even imagine the amount of work that goes into pulling off something like what happened this last week at KSA, or Kids Summer Adventure. And it's just, again, it's kind of this window we get to see into who Northshore is and our heart for reaching the next generation. I love just being a part of a church that says not what are we gonna do to make sure that our community right now gets to know who Jesus is, but 5, 10, 15 generations from now, what does our church need to do today that 15 years from now, people will sit in these seats and say, thank goodness that this church started what they started today, right here in this room. And so I'm just grateful to be a part of that. And, not just Kids Summer Adventure that happened last week, but each week we've got so many volunteers in our kids' spaces downstairs and at midweek. Thank you guys for week in and week out pouring into this next generation. And also for those of you guys that give here, know that you're a part of that as well. I remember 6 months back, Chad, our kids pastor, met in my office, and he was like, so we had 200 kids on campus last year. What would it take to do more? Welcome more kids in. So we figured out all the logistics of it, but at the bottom of it, it was this faith that the generosity of this church means we can make decisions around multiplication because you guys are gonna be generous and provide a way for so many more kids to get to hear who Jesus is. And so thank you for your week in and week out generosity. And if you haven't taken that step yet, I want to encourage you. It's incredible to see what God can do through your giving. And you can start that today going to northshore.church/give, or you can give at the boxes on your way out.
And one of the most exciting parts about Kids Summer Adventure was being on campus and hearing them worship. Yes. Many of them worshiping for the first time, seeing it modeled and learning what that feels like. And there was so much excitement and celebration. They've got a lot of energy. And today we are going to be blessed because the Kids Summer Adventure worship team is going to come out here and lead us in our next song. Yay! So would you stand to your feet and welcome these kids and make them feel loved?
I find all that I am in your love, love, love. You are with me in every step that I take. Your love for me, you have called me by name, Jesus, forever. I find all that I am in your love, love, love. Let the music play, hear us praise your name. See the darkness fade, dance the night away. We have found our place in the Savior's grace. Dance the night away. Your light is taking over me, yeah. Over me, yeah. I find freedom in the light of your love, everlasting. You are more than enough, Jesus, forever. I find all that I am in your love, love, love. Let the music play, hear us praise your name. See the darkness fade, dance the night away. We have found our place in the Savior's grace. Dance the night away. Your light is taking over me, yeah. Over me, yeah. Come on, put your hands up, let's go. Keep clapping, let's go. All of my heart and soul to you alone. You are the one I want forever. All of my heart is yours forevermore. You are the one I want forever. All of my heart and soul to you alone. You are the one I want forever. All of my heart is yours forevermore. You are the one I want. Let the music play, hear us praise your name. See the darkness fade, dance the night away. We have found our place in the Savior's grace. Dance the night away. Your light is taking over me, yeah. Over me, yeah. Come on, let's celebrate our kids. Woo! Great job, you guys. Woo-hoo! So awesome. Well, you can take a seat. Before we continue our service, we just want to share with you something exciting that's coming up in the life of our church called Community Serve Day. And to tell you a little bit more about it, we have some partners in our community who want to share the impact it's made. So let's watch it together.
Community Serve Day is a special event where we are able to bring people from the community in to help us get ready for the school year. As you know, the last 2 years have been really difficult, and we're ready to return to some sense of normalcy. So having everyone on campus helping us get ready is going to kick off our school year in a wonderful way.
Hello, my name is Marco Garcia. I'm the Community Partnership Volunteer Coordinator for the district. And I just wanted to thank the Northshore Community Church for getting this together and all the volunteers. I want to thank them for helping all our schools and our families get ready for the new school year. And it's a great way for the community to work together with the school. Thank you to everybody. Appreciate it.
Yes, we are very excited about this. Really just a unique chance to team up with the local school districts, both in Lake Washington District and the North Shore District. This has been something we've been doing for years. In fact, I was thinking about this. This will be our 13th Community Serve Day our family's gotten to be part of. And it's been so cool to kind of watch, to watch our kids be able to serve at their elementary school, then be able to serve at their middle school, and then be able to cycle back and help out those schools as high schoolers. And just to watch kind of that development, the relationships that were built, the sense of pride and place that they felt, it was an amazing thing. And let me just say, if you're a parent, if you're a grandparent, if you just care about what's happening in the future of our community, this is such a beautiful way, regardless of your ability physically, your age. You can do everything from literally pin things into bulletin boards to shovel mulch to help wash desks, all kinds of things. And it is a wonderful experience that I hope you will plan to be part of there on Sunday, August 27th, which will be here very soon. But that day is a little bit more than just a day to throw mulch. Something supernatural could happen that day for you. Before I say more about that, I should say hi. I'm Wolfgang, by the way. I work here. That's it. So now we're friends. Anyway, it's a remarkable thing that at times when we do things that we think are just designed to kind of help others meet needs, that kind of thing, what often happens is we wind up having these sort of supernatural experiences, these little moments where we encounter God maybe in a new way. And I know that may sound strange to you, but here's what I've found. I've found when we put ourselves out there, when we engage in serving and doing things for others, very often it's in that space of serving that we find what a servant God is. And we discover his love for us, that he knows us, that he sees us. I was reminded of just how powerful that is just this last week. A few months ago, the woman who's cut my hair and all that stuff for over 10 years, she and her family moved out of state, which throws you in something of a grooming crisis. You know what I'm talking about? Now, I know there are people with much bigger problems than this in the world, so please, context, all right? But what am I gonna do? You know what I mean? I don't have that much to work with to start with. I gotta find someone who can at least make this presentable, right? Which is a tall task, requires a highly trained professional. And so my friend Ashley, she recommended this other barber that was part of their group. And so I made an appointment because things were looking a little bushy and had a chance to sit down with this new guy. I was anxious to get to know him. So sit down, tell me about yourself, what's your story? I was not prepared for what happened. He starts to tell me about himself. He said, comes out that he lived in New York City on 9/11. And he was so impacted by what he witnessed that day that he immediately signed up and joined the military. He did 8 years of service, much of it on an aircraft carrier, but saw and experienced things that have stuck with him in his life, not in a good way. Wrestling with PTSD, and he began to talk openly about the counseling that he's been going through, and he talked very openly about some of the substance struggles that he's had in his life, and some of the relationship problems that he's encountered as a result, and the family dynamics that he's trying to figure out how to put back together. I've been in this guy's chair for 5 minutes, and I'm hearing all this stuff. And then he starts to tell me, but you know what? The last year or so, I've been on a whole new quest. He said, I've been beginning to explore my spiritual life, he said. He doesn't even know I'm a pastor. I'm sitting there thinking, I think I can handle this one. You know what I mean? Like, I'm ready. Here we go, man. I hope you're ready for this. And so just continuing to listen, like to just hear about his story and the questions he was wrestling with and the things that were impacting him as he was exploring. The biggest thing he said that he was learning, the biggest transformation in his life, he said, yeah, so finally I did tell him I was a pastor. He said, actually there was this church, and they had somehow reached out to us and they said, would there be any barbers that would be willing to come? They were doing a homelessness kind of outreach thing to kind of serve folks that are unhoused. And he volunteered to go and cut hair for people. And he said, dude, I had no idea. It was so powerful to get to be there and to just cut these people's hair and to get to hang out with them. He said, I've gone back every single week since. This has been amazing. And he began to talk about the change that it's been bringing about in his life. He started to talk about the things he was exploring about God and how he felt like he was encountering God through this service. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is crazy, man. We haven't even gotten the clippers out yet. Holy cow, right? We talked for an hour and a half. Not me talking, him talking. We talked about everything from reincarnation to meditation to Jesus to everything, all over the map. And I gotta tell you, I'm so excited to continue those conversations, to get to know him, and to see where all this goes. But it reminded me again, not everybody encounters Jesus in a space like this, with singing, as cool as that was, with talking like this. Sometimes people have those kinds of supernatural encounters with a pair of scissors in their hands, taking their amazing skill and using it to bless somebody else's life. Or like Community Serve Day, caring enough about a teacher to help them get their classroom in perfect shape to start the year. You see what I'm talking about? And that's what we've been learning together over these last several weeks in this series called Connecting with God. We've been learning there are actually different ways that we can encounter God. We can experience his presence in our lives. And it's all kind of rooted in this book that we've been exploring called Sacred Pathways by a pastor named Gary Thomas. It's not the Bible, but it's based on the Bible. And it talks about these different ways we connect with God. And basically the basic premise is this. There are different activities or environments that help us connect with God through Jesus. Different ways we can connect through God. We come to him through Jesus, but we can do that in a variety of forms, and we've been learning about those. It's all rooted in this beautiful little verse in James chapter 4, verse 8. It's one you may want to memorize because I think it could be helpful when you're feeling distant or remote from God. This is an invitation to every single human being, no matter what your story is, no matter what your background is. Here's the promise. You draw near to God, and he'll draw near to you. You take a step toward him, and you'll begin to discover he's taken a step toward you. And you may experience something completely unexpected. It can happen in a variety of ways. That's what we've talked about. But everybody, I would say almost everybody I know longs for that. Even my friends that have no interest in faith whatsoever. There's still a curiosity, just like in the life of my barber. I wonder, could it be there really is a God? Could it be there's more to this life than however many decades I live here? And that's the end of the story. And if that's you, maybe you came because you came to see a friend, family member get baptized. Maybe you came because your kid was gonna be up here jumping around on stage, or maybe you just saw there were bounce houses and hoped there was an adult section. I don't know what's going on. I'm glad you're here, logged on for whatever reason. But if you're wrestling with those questions, you are in the right place because there's a God that wants to meet you, that wants to encounter you, that wants to let you know you are seen, you are known, and you know what? You are loved. You, not the person beside you or the one talking to you. You. And we experience that in different ways. We've talked a little bit about, for some people, they experience that in nature. We said, get outside, some of you guys, get out there. See the mountains, look at those trees, take in the water, just see it. Because for some of us, when we're in that space, man, we sense God. Some of you are like that. We challenged others to say, hey, you know what? Slow down, simplify. Sometimes all the craziness of life, the best thing you could do for your soul to really encounter God is just stop for a minute, to get quiet, to turn off your phone, to just chill. We talked about how some people connect with God through tradition or ritual or symbolism, that those things infuse a richness, the smells, the sights, the sounds of worship. Those can be so powerful. We talked about how some people, they're engaged with God through the Bible. They just study and they love to learn about the Greek and the Hebrew and all these cool things and read new books and learn new ideas. And of course, last week, Kiki did such a great job challenging us to just let loose. Some of us encounter God. Didn't she do a great job? Absolutely, yes. To let loose, to just be open, to kind of not be self-conscious, but to just celebrate what God's doing in our lives. And again, some of those might come very naturally for you. Some of those might be a real stretch, but part of the beauty, part of the freedom and the freshness we can experience in our faith is when we engage in these different sort of sacred pathways and meet God there. Well, today I want to talk about a couple of last ways that many people do that. And they're a little different from some of the others because many of these other pathways, they're really about kind of that one-on-one connection with God. I mean, worship, we do it together, but it's kind of focused up, right? Vertical. Or slowing down and praying or contemplating, just kind of those kinds of things seem more private. But faith is more than just a private one-on-one thing. It's not just a vertical thing. It's a horizontal thing as well. Some of you may be familiar with one time somebody came up to Jesus and they said, "Hey, Jesus, can you boil this whole thing down for me?" It's a paraphrase. Kind of bottom line it. Like, what's the point? Like, what is the greatest commandment? If I had to figure out number one, like, what would it be? Jesus said, actually, there's two. And in this very famous passage in Matthew chapter 22, verse 37, it says, Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind." That's that vertical piece. This is the first and greatest commandment, Jesus says. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's that horizontal piece. The first is to love God with all that you are. Don't take that lightly. Throw yourself into it. That's that vertical component. But don't forget also, the second is to love people. It's about this horizontal component. And I want to talk about kind of the two primary ways we may be able to do that and invite you to be part of it. Because these pathways have to do with seeing others in need or recognizing some broken part of society or culture, some injustice or evil in our world, and saying that is not okay. I am not okay living in a world where kids are abused. And I want to do something about that. I'm going to find an organization I can team up with, or a place I can donate, or a way I can advocate or bring awareness to this need or that need, or the many, many, many different kinds of needs that are in our world. And that's part of what makes this so overwhelming for people. Many people have just resolved. I have so many friends, they say, "I don't even watch the news, man. I don't even turn it on. I can't handle hearing story after story about all the terrible stuff that's happening in our world." And I get that impulse. But friends, for those of us that are followers of Jesus, we are invited to be part of the solution to those things. To not just look the other way or to bury our head in the sand or to try to distract ourselves with entertainment and all the other cool stuff that's out there, as great as it can be. But to let ourselves see and even engage in dealing with some of these great struggles in our world, whether it is racial issues, whether it is homelessness issues or mental health challenges or addiction, whether it is stuff with kids or families that are coming apart in different ways. And it's not just the big needs that make the news. Many of us live in spaces where we have people in our lives who are wrestling, who are struggling, where they need care, they need help, and they feel isolated and alone with no one looking out for them. Nobody likes to think about this stuff because it can be overwhelming. But one of the ways we can connect with God, and what really the whole message today is these two words. You ready for it? Do something. Let me be clear. You don't have to do everything, but you got to do something. You got to find some area, every one of us, that you can make your life about more than just you. Where you take these gifts you have, whether it's using a pair of scissors, whether it's shoveling mulch, whether it's sitting and listening, praying, whatever it might be, providing food, find a space where you can do something. For some, when they see the needs in the world, it stirs them and they say, I gotta do something. And that can play out a couple different ways. The two primary ways I wanna talk today, one, some people become activists. Other people, they become caregivers. Activists and caregivers. And for some in this room and some watching online, that might be the way that you most connect with God. Lean in. Loving God and loving people. Let's talk about these. First, the activist. Now, I don't know what you picture when you hear an activist. Maybe it's protest signs. Maybe it's the old images of CHOP or Chaz or whatever it was, remember? Maybe it's petitions or marches or sit-ins. Friends, being activist can include all those different kinds of things. But there are those who see some brokenness or evil or injustice in our world and they say, not on my watch. I can't fix this by myself, but I will be part of the solution. And as tempting as it might be to just look the other way and mind my own business, I have to do something. And they do. And those folks, they begin to spread awareness. They begin to tell stories. They begin to raise money. They begin to influence political leaders and social leaders. They organize, they protest, they volunteer. They rise up and say, I can't do everything, but I can do something. And there's a lot of people who are surprised to find out this was actually part of Jesus' ministry. Some people think about Jesus and they picture kind of this syrupy sweet guy that like walks through fields, like skimming the daisies with his hands, you know what I mean? Or like just chatting with kids by the side of the road. He's just such a nice guy, this Jesus. Can I tell you, you don't know this Jesus. Because there are scenes in his life where Jesus loses it, where he goes off. There's one scene in particular where he walked into the temple and he saw vendors set up around the temple that were exploiting people for their own profit. They were drastically inflating the prices of things that people needed to use for worship there at the temple, drastically inflating the prices for their own personal gain. I mean, this is like worse than the cost of beer and t-shirts at the Taylor Swift concert tonight. You know what I'm talking about? What they were doing is they were selling animals that were not premium for very premium prices, exploiting people, exploiting their spiritual desire for their own personal financial gain. And Jesus went off. There's no skimming daisies here. Some of you know the scene. It shows up in all four of the Gospels. It's recorded. Jesus comes into that courtyard and he begins throwing tables, physically, violently throwing tables. It says he pulls out a whip. So angered by this injustice and exploitation, he literally begins running people out of the space with a whip. This is not, kumbaya Jesus. You know what I'm talking about? He confronted evil, friends. And ever since, his followers have been doing the same. And of course, he wasn't the first or the last. Throughout the library of Scripture, we meet people who spoke out against evil and injustice of their day, who confronted racism, who confronted mistreatment of the poor, neglect of the vulnerable. Prophets like Moses, Elijah, John the Baptist, Isaiah, pretty much every prophet in the Old Testament. They confronted these kinds of things in their day. Even the Old Testament book of Proverbs contains this very simple but clear direction. It says, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. Come on, people of God. There are needs around us. Let's stand up on God's behalf for our brothers and sisters who are struggling. And people have been doing that for centuries. Whether it's helping the poor, serving the hungry, pushing back against injustice and darkness in our world. And yeah, let's be honest. There have been times when the people who claim to be followers of Jesus did disgusting things. The Crusades, the Inquisitions, even honestly justifying slavery in our own country. These are ugly, ugly realities in our shared history as followers of Jesus. They are part of our story. They can't be denied or justified. But they're not all of the story. Because the truth is, there have also been armies of followers of Jesus who have been at the cutting edge of addressing these kinds of societal injustices. Some of them are names you know, some of them may be people you don't. Many of them lived long, long ago. Leading the charge against slavery in the West, in Europe specifically, was a guy named William Wilberforce. And this guy, devoted follower of Jesus, he worked tirelessly to begin to shift the cultural tide and bring an end to slavery in England. And then ultimately, his example and work led to slavery ending in the United States. Or other great Christian leaders, more recent to our time, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who's driven by a deep faith in God to combat the segregation and racial injustice of his day. My family and I were just in DC a couple of weeks ago, and this memorial picture I just took with my phone is one of my favorite memorials in the city. Just so powerful, seeing this man resolute because of his faith in Jesus to push back against incredible evil in his day. And his legacy lives on. One of the movies that has the world talking this summer, you've probably heard about it, is this movie, Sound of Freedom. Yeah, it's a true story of a federal agent who is battling this incredibly horrific world of child sexual abuse and trafficking. And driven by his faith, the story goes that he risks his career, frankly, even his life, to do something about this evil in our world. And I finally got a chance to see it last week. Many of you know it has outperformed Indiana Jones at the box office, right? It's pretty extraordinary. And I'll tell you, it is an intense movie. I won't lie, it was not easy to watch. But it is shining a light on this very dark world. And it's challenging people to do something. When I sat next to my 18-year-old daughter and listened to her sob in that movie because of the reality of how other 18-year-olds and disgustingly younger are treated. It's growing. And many of you know, for decades, Northshore has said, it's not okay. It's not okay. For decades, we've been working with partners in places like India, places like Spain, to directly fight that kind of trafficking and child abuse and woman abuse and human abuse in those parts of the world. To be honest, it's one of the things that makes me so proud to be part of this place. Because we've been part of rescuing women and kids from that darkness and then helping them heal from that trauma and begin to rebuild their lives for several decades. Matter of fact, there's a team leaving just this week who's going to be heading over to our partners there in Spain, working in southern Spain, to encourage them, to support them, to come alongside them in their incredibly important, significant work. And that's just one partnership, friends. There are partnerships all around the world addressing all kinds of needs like hunger and lack of education and spiritual darkness and basic lack of access to clean, safe water. And you need to know, we were talking earlier about giving, how your giving helped the cool stuff happen here with Kids Summer Adventure. A big chunk of the giving here also goes to those kind of partnerships. When you give here, those dollars are mobilized into those environments through those partners to make that kind of difference. And I know some of you have been to those places, you know the impact it made. I've been to many of these places, and I can tell you firsthand, there is nothing like looking in the eyes of a young girl that you know you got to be some tiny little part of helping free from treatment beyond our imagination, friends. There's nothing like that. Being part of making a difference in the lives of people like that. Because it doesn't just make a difference in their lives. You know what it does? It makes a difference in your life, all the same. So let me ask you, whether you're watching online or sitting in this room, what is one of those needs? What's an area of need that stirs you? Maybe it is kids that don't have safe families or people who don't have homes. Maybe it's those struggling with hunger or victims of domestic violence, whatever it may be. Whatever this means for you, it may mean volunteering with an organization. I have friends who literally started nonprofits to address needs they saw in the world. Whatever it is, I believe there are some people listening to me right now, and this stirs something in you. You need to do something. Now, let me quickly say a quick caution, because often when our hearts are captured by these kinds of needs, it can consume us. And sometimes we can become so fixated on one area of need that we get angry at other people who don't focus on that need too. But can I just tell you, friends, there are plenty of needs to go around. You don't have to do everything, but you do have to do something. What are you doing? How are you engaged? How are you involved? Because we need these kinds of activists to challenge us, to keep us from this impulse of comfort and complacency in our lives. I gotta keep moving. So let me talk about another way that some of us, I know, are currently loving God by loving others, and that's as a caregiver. As caregivers. Some of you with no fanfare, no spotlight, no attention, day in and day out, you show love by caring for someone who could not function without you. And that's an incredibly heavy load. I was recently talking with a friend of mine, and she was telling me some of her spiritual story. She told me that all the way back as a young woman, she was working as a nurse's aide. And one day as she was helping an older woman take a shower, and this older woman had both dementia and incontinence. And so she was describing this scene in this muggy, humid shower, literally washing feces off the feet of this old woman who wasn't even mentally present enough to know what was happening. And she told me what she sensed in that moment, literally washing this woman's feet. She sensed a little whisper in her ear of God saying, I see and love you just like this. That's how much I love you. And it transformed her life. It was a key turning point for her. That was decades ago, but she still talks about it and the impact that it's had on her life. And now that woman, she is a key part of our prayer ministry here at Northshore. God often meets us when we're caring for others. And of course, we see this in the life of Jesus. Time is short, so let me just say briefly. Come on, we all seen. Feeding the hungry, healing the hurting, loving the lonely. And for centuries since, people have been doing exactly the same in Jesus' name, whether it's in the well-known visible cases like a Mother Teresa in India, or whether it's in the completely invisible, totally unacknowledged, never gonna receive a Nobel Prize way that some of you serve and care and love. It all reflects the compassionate servant heart of Jesus. This is what James in the New Testament writes. He says, religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this. You wanna know what the religion God likes is? It's to look after orphans and widows in their distress, the vulnerable, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. He says faith it's about more than just words and meetings and songs. It's about putting your faith into practice, caring for those who are struggling or vulnerable and alone. And I'll tell you, I know so many people at this church who just do that same work all the time. There's a team that quietly visits shut-ins every month. You don't even know they do it, but they go and they sit. Sometimes those they're visiting don't even know it, but they sit and pray with them and visit them. We have care teams that meet with those struggling with grief or isolation or addiction or domestic violence to give them help and encouragement, to let them know someone's in their corner. There are those who send cards to people just to let them know they're seen and being thought about right now. So many different ways that people serve. In fact, what I want to do as I'm getting close to finishing is tell you this, share the story of a couple of friends of mine, Scott and Lindsay. They've done more than just talk about their faith. They put their faith into action. And in their case, their do something meant becoming foster parents. In fact, in the video that we're about to watch, you will hear a little 4-month-old baby that they're currently fostering, occasionally cooing or making noises in the background because he was there for the video recording. But as you hear those noises from time to time, listen even closer as they share about what God has done through them and in them in that experience. Take a look at their story.
I'm Scott Eklund.
I'm Lindsay.
And we have been going to Northshore for just a little over 2 years now.
We're married about 3 years, I guess, and we were looking to start our family. We got married a little bit later in life than some, and so we were pretty ready to start a family, and then it just wasn't happening. And we kept praying, and we went through infertility and loss and just a lot of stress, actually, during that time. And we're praying that God would lead us to how we would start our family. We looked into adoption, and I was open to foster care, but...
I was not. Yeah, I just, when we first started this, I didn't know how much I wanted to be a dad, and eventually God worked on me and changed my heart, and I was both feet in. Lindsay had always wanted to be a mom. That was something she didn't need convincing of, but for me, there was so much responsibility, and I knew the way I wanted to be a dad for my kids, and so it would be very hard to be a dad, and I didn't know how much I wanted to be one until we had one come into our home and start calling me daddy and running to me when I came home from work or whatever it was, and it was exciting. And then he goes home, and that hurt, but that made me want to be a dad in general, not just a foster dad to more, but also become a father of children of our own someday.
Eventually, we became forever parents through adoption, private domestic adoption. And our oldest, Abraham, was such a gift, and we have a continued open adoption with his biological family. And then 20 months later, we were a bit surprised, but our youngest, Aiden, came into the picture through foster care, but eventually an adoption plan was made.
As we started to go through this, our faith started to mature, and our ministry, whatever you want to call it, matured as well, because we went from wanting to be parents to feeling the call that God has on us to have children in our homes, and we're giving the family an opportunity to heal up their brokenness, because no child comes into foster care because their parents are whole, right? I mean, we're all broken, but a lot of these families are just so broken, and so it's such a struggle for them that this gives them an opportunity to get their lives together, and it's brought a lot of healing to families, and it's a way for us to show God's love to them.
You just have a sense of peace, and that's how we know it's part of our calling as a family. Our children are in on it. Part of our family values is radical hospitality, and this is how that is lived out in our family. And I think about how God just uses us, and we don't know what's going on half the time. And he just speaks to us, and we've just become his hands and feet in caring for these children.
You know, he's always there for us, and he knows what we need, and he knows that our heart needs healing, and he knows there's brokenness, but he also knows that we're going to grow from the tough times that we go through, and that's going to help us help other people down the road.
Yeah, incredible, huh? See, you don't have to do everything. You may not even have to do that, but you can do something. And what is that area that stirs your heart? You know, it's a sweet thing. Occasionally people will send a nice card or a note, or they'll have tickets to something and say, hey, would you like to use it? Those are always wonderful, very sweet moments. But can I tell you something, what means even more in my life? There are times when people, they give something to my kids. They do something for my kids. Maybe it's an experience they get to go be part of, or a gift, or whatever it might be. They just go out of their way to help my kids. We've been so blessed by so many people who've helped our kids. I'll tell you, that means so much more to me than anything that you could ever do for me. And sometimes I just wonder if it's the same with God, don't you know? Yes, he loves when our hands in the air and we worship. He loves when we spend time with him, praying and reading his word. Those are all wonderful things, but sometimes I wonder if what he loves the most is when we do things for his kids. To meet needs, to help others, to just care when it seems nobody else does. And friends, you can do that. That's what this is all about. So that's my challenge for you today. Do something. I don't know what that looks like for you, but make it more than just kind of a one-time shot. Like, Community Serve Day is awesome, and I hope you'll be part of it. Quite frankly, every person who considers Northshore their church home should be there that day. I don't care what your ability or age, you can do something. And for those of you joining us online from other parts of the country or world, I promise you, if you reach out to your local school district and say, is there anything I can do to help at one of your schools? They will be shocked, all right? And they'll have something for you to do. Every single person. And don't wait until next month to sign up, just do it now, all right? At communityserveday.org. But don't stop there. Find a place to make a difference. Many of you did that in kids' lives this last week. Could be serving here, could be part of that visitation care team, or it could be getting involved with our international work. And if you want to know more about getting involved like that in some way, here's what I want you to do. Just write "do something" on that little connection card that was mentioned earlier. On the back of the seat in front of you, or there in the chat, just write "do something." We'll be in touch this week with ways that you can get involved. And then there are those who are caregivers. I know we have so many people who serve in that capacity as the primary caregiver for a parent or a loved one or a child, whether there's special needs or there's illness involved, whatever it may be. We're currently in the process of working out some better ways to support and gather and connect those caregivers. And if you want to know more about that, if you're in that space, you can just write caregiver on that connection card, and we'll follow up and give you some more information on that down the road. So here's how I want to end today. I'm already a bit over my time, so I got to stop. But in just a moment, what I want to do is I want to pray for us, okay? I want to pray for those first who have this activist stirring in their heart right now. And maybe you've had it a long time, but you've pushed it down. Maybe it's something you're already acting on and you just want re-energized. But maybe it's something you're not even sure, you don't know what to do, but you just want to ask God to give you wisdom and a path so that you don't have to do everything, but you can do something. So maybe today's a day you open your heart and say, God, I want to live for more than myself, and I want what they're talking about, to encounter you in this way. And I want to pray that for you. And then I want to pray for a second group of people, and that's for the folks who are currently involved in some kind of caregiving. It might be in your work professionally, it might be in your own personal life, and you carry so much. You may feel like you are totally alone and no one sees what you do, but can I tell you, God sees. God knows. And God wants to meet you in that space. And so I want to pray for your energy and for your stamina, and that you'll just have that sweet moment of God reminding you that the love you're showing that person is the same love that he has for you. And so here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask our prayer team if you guys would go ahead and kind of make your way down here to the front and kind of get in position. And I'm going to ask everyone else, if you're able here in the room, to stand up. Would you please stand with me right now? Prayer teams, go ahead and come on down. You can kind of queue up here along the front. And here's what I want to do. I just want to extend this invitation to you. No self-consciousness, no like, what do people think? For those of you who sense God prompting you to lean in as some sort of activist, you heard about a cause, or there's some brokenness in our world, and you just resolved, it's not okay. I got to be part of doing something about this. Even if you're not sure what that means, I want to invite you to come down here, and we're just going to pray over you as a group. But I also want to invite those of you who are currently in some kind of a caregiving situation. Maybe it is a sick loved one. Maybe you're just a stay-at-home parent right now, and you're a caregiver, but you're worn out and you need some fresh energy. I want to invite you to receive prayer as well, okay? So if you're in either of those spaces, come down here, all right? We're not going to do weird things to you, okay? Eric's a good guy, I'm telling you, he's a good guy. Stephen, shady, so come over here, all right? But if that's you, if you'd like that kind of prayer, now, as in now, come on down, all right? And if not, you can raise your hand in your seat. No one wants prayer. So very good, that'll be lovely. We're praying anyway, because some of you need it, and I need it. And so if you're in that space, don't be shy, come on down. You're not signing up for anything. You just come down, we want to pray for you, okay? Let me pray. God, there are so many people that I know you have wired and gifted in such unique ways. Lord, I marvel at the depth of your body in the world. So many amazing people. So many of them using their gifts and talents to make a difference in other people's lives. And I thank you for the army of people here at Northshore that's already in this work. God, will you give them energy, passion, renew their fire for this work that you've called. But Lord, for those who might be on the sidelines, who have tried to push down some of that prompting or haven't explored what it might look to get involved and do something. Father, I pray you will stir something in them, that you'll ignite something in them, and you'll light a fire in their heart. A fire in their heart, Lord, to take some step. It could be anything from volunteering to starting a new nonprofit, who knows? But God, burn a new passion in their life and make it bigger than just themselves. So Lord, I thank you for these activists and the things that we believe you will do through them to make this world more what you want it to be. I pray for your spirit and your power to that end. And God, I also pray for those who right now are involved in caregiving in all its forms, whether as a job or in their lives or as volunteers. God, I pray that you will infuse them with a fresh sense of energy and stamina. God, it's so tiring. It's so monotonous. It can be so hard. Father, will you bring a freshness and an endurance to their hearts? Will you renew them and refresh them? I pray, Lord. And even greater, will you meet them in that place? and remind them of just how proud you are of their love and service. Even when they're frustrated and angry, remind them that they're loved. So God, we thank you. We thank you for your promise to draw near to us if we'll draw near to you. It's what we long to do. And so we stand before you, pledging to build our lives on that foundation, to follow you. Please use us, I pray, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Holy, there is no one like
It's been such a good morning at North Shore this morning. Our prayer team is going to hang around in the front down here. If you haven't come forward and you really have something on your heart that you just need to talk to somebody about or have somebody pray for you, just come. That's why they're here. So Wolfgang did a wonderful job today of wrapping up the series on connecting with God. Yes. The whole series has been so good, and we're getting ready to start a new series next week, and it's going to be called More to the Story. You know, we have hard things in our lives. Things come in and face us that seem impossible. They're obstacles, they're hard, they're painful. We just don't see any way out of it. But God says there's more to the story. So come back next week. We'll start a brand new series. And in the meantime, go outside, enjoy the sunshine, ice cream, games, and meet somebody new. Have a good week. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.